After not playing a single snap in 2019 with an ankle injury, AJ Green is entering the 2020 season with a clean bill of health. But does that make him a good comeback candidate for fantasy football drafts? Here to break it down, Sports Illustrated's senior fantasy analyst Michael Fabiano and All Bengals editor James Rapien. James, I'll go to you first. Let's talk about AJ Green. We know he's been as productive as any wide receiver since entering the league in 2011. But can fantasy managers trust him with a rookie quarterback and some of the injury concerns?
I think you can trust him depending on where you get him, right? The price is what matters most here because we think AJ Green is still an elite player. At least I do. I know the Bengals do. And I think if you're in a fantasy football league this year, you could look at him as a guy who could have the best quarterback he's ever played with throughout his career. So if he's 95% or 90% of his old self, but he has better quarterback play, then that should result in fantasy production. Unfortunately, he's missed a ton of time, 29 of 64 games over the past 4 seasons, including all of last season. So health is a factor, but if he's not your wide receiver one or wide receiver two, and he's a guy you're not banking on for success, I think it's worth the risk.
All right, so let's talk about that price point for AJ Green. Right now, according to our advanced ADP, he is coming off the board as wide receiver 32, the 67th overall selection. Fabs, are you okay with that ADP price point for AJ Green?
Yeah, I am because I'm sort of baking into his value the fact that I'm expecting wide receiver 2 or 3 numbers, and AJ Green has been a wide receiver 1 for most of his career from a fantasy perspective. I feel like if there's anything to be concerned about, it's the fact that what does that rapport with Joe Burrow look like to start the season? We haven't had OTAs. We're not having a preseason. You're basically going right into week 1. I don't think it's a question about AJ Green's talent. He's still talented, 32 years old. He can still get it done. But does he mix with Burrow right away, or does it take a little bit of time? Also, AJ's had the lower leg injuries, and those things can be problematic. I mean, we've seen him miss so much time over the last couple of seasons. But if I'm drafting him just as a wide receiver 3, that discount is already baked in. The fact that he has had injury issues already baked into his value. And at that point, I do feel like he is well worth a look as a 6th or 7th round selection.
Two-time fantasy football world champion and reigning champion Matt Bailey picked AJ Green as his comeback player of the year. You can check out more of that analysis in his preseason pro by visiting si.com/fantasy.